Hello and welcome to our webinar with the title NXP introduces the new MIFARE DESFire EV3 IC. My name is Daniela Burgstaller. I'm a Marketing Communications Manager at NXP, and I will guide you through our session today. First of all, I would like to introduce you to our speakers from NXP. Sandra Fuchs, Senior Customer Application Engineer, and Zhoming Chua, Senior Product Manager. Before we start with our webinar, just a few organizational points. Today's webinar is scheduled for 1 hour, and we also have time for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions or comments during the webinar, please type them into the questions box, which you will find in your GoToWebinar control panel. The webinar itself is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be shared with all attendees afterwards. Well, that was all from my side for now, and I'm handing over to our first presenter. Zhoming, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Daniela. Hi, good morning and good afternoon to everybody. My name is Zhoming. We are very excited today to introduce you our new product, MIFARE DESFire EV3. For today, we will give you an introduction to the MIFARE DESFire EV3 and the evolution steps of the product family. And then it will be followed by Sandra, who will present to you the key features and benefits of the MIFARE DESFire EV3. And finally, we will show you the product supports and also the ordering information for you to find samples and order from your sales representative. Now let me begin with introducing you to the MIFARE DESFire product family and the evolutions to MIFARE DESFire EV3. But first of all, let's take a look at the real-life problem which we are trying to solve. So as the urbanizations continues to grow, there's a need for optimizations in smart cities. So by 2050, as many people in cities as on planet today will be living in the cities. And this is more than 2/3 the people in all around the world. There's a need for the city to manage urban flows, the mobility and the access to services so as to be efficient in distributing the resources to everybody and making sure that everyone can attend to service which they need. There's a need for scalable and extendable technology so as to extend all these services to more people, growing people over time. And as services and things are connected together, there's a need for trustable and securely connected technology. Today, many smart cities is already powered by secure contactless technology like the MIFARE DESFire contactless smart cards. As you may already know, through smart city services such as the public transportations, the access to city attractions, parking, shopping, and nowadays with the EV, there is also a use of contactless technology in e-charging. The MIFARE DESFire product can be categorized as the below 5 elements. So it is fast and highly secure transactions. It's convenient for the users. It's durable and reliability. And its form factor flexibility. And lastly, the low maintenance cost of the contactless technology. So MIFARE DESFire is powering through smart city applications in many fields. So in mobility, it is widely used for transport ticketing, for mobile ticketing, EV charging, parking, car and bike sharing, and also secure car access to your modern electronics car today. And in access, DESFire is also used widely in access to enterprise, hotel, stadium, and schools, and also access to various smart services around the city. And also in micropayment, the MIFARE DESFire is used for micropayment at event, at festival, in the canteen, or in retail store, or in the food and beverages around you. And also in loyalty and many other applications in and around the cities. The MIFARE DESFire have been widely used around the world. So here are some key MIFARE DESFire projects you can see worldwide. They are in access management, smart loyalty, smart mobilities, micropayment, and other applications. So MIFARE DESFire today is powering the transport ticketing in many major cities, like in London, in San Francisco, in Dubai, in Delhi, in Australia, various cities, and in many other cities which is not listed around here. And not just in the transport ticketing, but also in access and micropayment as listed in the previous slides. Now let us take a look at the 2 decades of product evolutions of the MIFARE DESFire family. So from the beginning, the MIFARE DESFire was introduced back in 2002. So at that point of time, the DESFire was introducing a new open standard triple DES, which is widely used during that time. So it offered the triple DES Corporal on the flexible system that can allow any application service provider to build multi-application on a card. It's an off-the-shelf product where you can purchase it without building any OS and create an application on top of it. And in 2008, we introduced the first evolutions of the MIFARE DESFire product. And again, here we set a new standard that we introduced at that point of time, still a very new crypto standard, the AES, which is newly appointed by NIST to be used in most of the government applications. But at that point of time, AES is still not widely used in the market. But NXP sees the needs for higher security, and we have put in the AES coprocessor. And at the same time, we also set a new benchmark for the contactless smart card to have it achieving the common criteria EL4 plus certifications. So this is a highly secure security evaluations, which is comparing it to the bank grade security. In 2016, we have the second evolutions, the third generations of MIFARE DESFire EV family, the MIFARE DESFire EV2 was introduced. In 2016, we introduced a few new features to support new use cases which we have gathered back from our customer. Some of these new features are the dedicated applications management, which support the post-issuance of application, a transaction MAC, which is a proof of transactions, and then the multiple key set, which allowed the card to store more than one set of keys as a backup. And as security is in NDA of in the DNA of NXP and the MIFARE DESFire product, we set the product with common criteria certification at EL5+. And fast forward to today, we introduced the fourth generations of DESFire EV3, the third evolution of the product family, with the MIFARE DESFire EV3. So the MIFARE DESFire EV3 will shows the fastest performance. It introduced new security feature like the transaction timer to tackle new attack scenario. And it also introduced new features to support the secure NFC applications called the secure unique NFC message. And the product is again evaluated at common criteria EL5 plus, a high level comparable to a bank grade security. Here is a feature comparisons for the MIFARE DESFire family, with MIFARE DESFire EV3 being backward compatible to all the previous family, MIFARE DESFire EV2 and MIFARE DESFire EV1. So the MIFARE DESFire product is a contactless product based on 14443A and support the ISO 7816 file system. And all the three family offer the standard user memory of 2, 4, and 8K. And with the EV2 and in the future EV3 is offering also the extended memory of 16 and 32K. With the EV2 and the EV3 product family, the number of applications on the chip is only limited by the memory size. And here you can see that the DESFire EV3 introduced 3 new components compared to EV2. That is the dedicated application management with a preloaded key to enable a fast and easy onboarding of application creation. The introduce of the secure unique NFC message, which is a compatible features as on our NTAC product family, NTAC DNA, and the new transaction timer, which is introduced to protect against a new kind of attack found in the industry. So the MIFARE DESFire product family is a highly scalable and you can find acceptance in many areas. The MIFARE DESFire EV3 is a multi-applications credential. It's positioned at a medium cost level. At the low end side, we have also the MIFARE DESFire Lite, which will be suitable for applications like the account-based ticketing or single journey ticket or any other kind of limited use applications. And to combine with a bank card or any other conversions applications, the MIFARE DESFire implementation is also available on microcontroller, our product Smart MX, and our Java card, the JCOP, so that you can put MIFARE DESFire in parallel with bank applications such as Visa and MasterCard. And as digitization is become a common thing today, the MIFARE DESFire is also offered on our MIFARE To Go platform. The MIFARE To Go is a cloud service digitization of the physical card onto a digital form, which can be hold on a mobile phone or a wearable. So all these different devices, they are interoperable with each other. So it can be scaled down or scaled up depending on the requirement of the applications and of the end user. And on top, there's also a cloud service that provide multi-applications post-issuance purpose. So this cloud service will allow to put application onto the existing card which is in the field and to extend the usable of the card into various applications. So the 3 key pillars of MIFARE DESFire is first, multi-application. So on the multi-applications, we have built in the feature called the dedicated application management for expanding the application on the card. And with the combination of a web-based service platform, you can offer the multiple smart city services on one card. The next important pillar of the MIFARE DESFire EV3 is on security. So in NXP, we do constant security hardening of the product. So in the DESFire EV3, the latest common criteria EL5 Plus certifications is used. And we introduce new transaction timer to avoid interference by a man-in-the-middle attack. And lastly, the performance is also a very important pillar of the product, because this is how the end user will feel the difference. The MIFARE DESFire EV3 provide a faster and better RF performance than the previous generations. It provides better user experience and more reliable system performance than before. As security is a very important element for us and also for our customer, we take care of the security of the product from one generation to the next. So when we talk about the security, it is a moving target. As more sophisticated attacks are being developed, higher robustness are required on a product. As NXP, we assure our customer that they will always have a secure product on hand to protect against any new kind of attacks. And therefore, in every of our evolutions, we constantly securely harden our product, both in the hardware and in the software. So we use common criteria as a basis to measure this improvement. And performance is a great importance for the end customer and also for the reliability of the system. So the MIFARE DESFire EV3 is going to be faster, give you more speed, more read range than before. So when compared to the DESFire EV1, based on one common sense set of transactions, we have seen a performance improvement of up to 1.6 times. But this depends on the transaction flow. It can be more or less depending on the commands you are using. As for the operating distance, the comparison between the DESFire EV3 and EV1 is that the DESFire EV3 will start operating at a much lower field strength, and that means that you will get up to 15% more read range. So more read range will be helpful when you are reading it with a reader's antenna with a very weak field strength, such as on a mobile phone. It will provide you with the additional 5 millimeters which you require for a good user experience. Next, I would like to hand over the floor to Sandra to give you some highlights on the key features and benefits of the MIFARE DESFire EV3s. Sandra?
Thank you, Jiaming. And hello, everybody, also from my side. So now let's start with the key features of the MIFARE DESFire EV3. Jiaming, next slide, please. When we look at the MIFARE DESFire EV3, MIFARE DESFire is a true multi-application card, and it comes with a file system on chip. The file system is built up in a way that you have one card level, as you see in the image, meaning this is the base level of the card, and you can compare it with the root directory of your Windows drive if you want so. On the card level, you have card level keys that you can set, and you can do some settings that affect the overall card security and card specification. On the card level, you have then the possibility to add as many applications as you want, depending on how much memory you have available. An application you can imagine as being a folder. Also, again, as you know it from your Windows drive, a folder on your Windows drive would be here an application on the MIFARE DESFire card. Inside a folder, multiple files can be grouped together, and each file storing specific data. So you can use the files to group your data, and you can group multiple files together to form an application. So the nice thing about MIFARE DESFire is that you don't need to take care about block assignment, as you might know it from block-based memory layouts. So you don't need to take care about block addressing, but you have here a really nice usable file system that's very convenient. So what we can see here in the image as an example, we have here 3 applications on the card, one being a transport application, one being an employee ID application for granting access to the office, for example, and another one being an e-money application, meaning a purse on the card that can be used to spend money in some local shops or some local attractions. Every application can be protected with its own keys, meaning every application is completely independent from the other applications on the card. That's very important to highlight, as you can protect the data inside an application with your individual keys and your individual settings. Meaning this makes it very convenient also for multiple service providers to come together on one card with different applications from different providers on the same card. Applications can be added to the card in different ways. So one being the standard way with creating the application during the card issuance before handing out the card to the end users. And other ways to add applications would be the way to add applications post-issuance with the delegated application management that we will see on the next slide. Exactly. I just wanted to explain how applications can be added to the card. So as I just said, one way would be the conventional way with the card issuer adding his application that's matching to his infrastructure during the card pre-personalization before handing out the card to the end users. And another very nice, innovative way how applications can also be added to the card is actually the adding of the applications over the air via NXP's offered cloud service by the end user directly. So this feature makes it possible to install applications post-card issuance on already existing cards in the field by the end user himself with using his mobile device. So what NXP is offering here is a complete application cloud service where the application details can be registered by the service provider, which could be any existing infrastructure provider, like in this example, a bike sharing operator, a transit operator, or a loyalty or a shopping operator. So NXP would host these details in the cloud service and additionally provide a mobile phone application for Android and iOS that can be used directly by the end user, so by the end customer in the field. When tapping his DESFire EV3 card to the mobile device, the end customer can then decide by himself which additional applications he would like to add to the card to really make use of his card as a smart city card to be used in many different applications and infrastructures. So this feature makes it really nice and convenient for multiple operators here to work together and bring their application to the cloud and via the cloud to a lot of existing MIFARE DESFire EV3 cards in the field. Okay, let's look at the next slide, please. So applications and MIFARE DESFire EV3 in general is following the transaction-based approach, meaning if the user taps the card to a reader terminal, the reader is executing a transaction with the card, starting to select the application that's matching to the infrastructure, then performing some read and write authentication commands, and at the end of the transaction, a commit transaction command is typically executed. Now, a nice feature that's bringing security also into offline executed transaction is the so-called transaction MAC feature. So the transaction MAC feature is validating the transaction on card side, meaning if the transaction was finalized, an additional checksum or security checksum, also called MAC, is generated by the card and transferred to the reader terminal. The reader terminal doesn't need to be online at the time of transaction execution, but the reader terminal would connect to the backend or to the cloud at a certain time period to send all the transaction details and also the transaction MAC to the backend, where the MAC can be recalculated and the backend can check if the transaction was really authentic and if everything was okay. This feature is very nice to be used if the same application is used in multiple different infrastructures. Let's say in the example of a shared purse of an e-money application that's used in different shops or different restaurants. It would be nice to have this checksum and the TMAC generation in place to detect in case any kind of vendor or shop is trying to do a fraud. So it could be that a specific shop wants to do a fraudulent transaction and try to replay a transaction or to execute the same transaction twice. In this case, the transaction MAC feature would detect it and would detect which kind of infrastructure would try to do a fraudulent attack in this case. Okay, when we look at the next feature, it's also related to the transaction execution. And this is a really nice new feature, the transaction timer. So this feature allows us to limit the maximum time a transaction can take on the card side. Meaning from starting the transaction until finishing the transaction with the commit transaction command, a certain maximum time can be defined on the card, and if the time is not kept, the card would reset itself. So you see on top, we have a valid transaction execution, and the commit transaction is sent from the reader terminal in the valid time frame to the card. So the timer is happy and the transaction is considered as okay, and everything was executed successful. In case the transaction would not be finalized in time and the commit transaction command would not be received on the card side in the defined time frame, the card would reset itself as if the transaction would have never happened. And this transaction timer feature was implemented to avoid specific man-in-the-middle attacks. A potential attack would be, for example, a person entering the public transit system with a specific malicious device, and this device would spy and observe the transaction between the reader and the card. So this device would also be able to stop the transaction at the right point in time and avoid sending the commit transaction command to the card, but still keeping the card powered. And this would allow the attacker to enter the transit system without finishing the transaction, so actually without having a valid ticket. He would still be able to keep the card powered. In case an officer would come to check him, he could finish the transaction with his device and then write the transaction to the card. But in case no officer would come to check him, he would not finish the transaction and basically get a free ride on the transit system. Now the transaction timer is exactly preventing this kind of attack, meaning the card cannot remain powered for an unlimited amount of time, but it would reset itself. So in this case, the attacker would never be able to enter the transit system. He would never be able to have a valid ticket with this kind of attack. Okay, let's go to the next feature, please. This feature is related to having multiple application keys and switching between these application key sets in a very secure way on the card. And it's called multiple rolling key set, which allows you to update all your application keys in a very fast and secure way in the field. So what you can see here, this blue folder is actually a MIFARE DESFire EV3 application. And as you know, every application can have its own application keys. Now, every application can not only have one set of these application keys, but actually multiple sets of keys that you see here in different color coding. So in this example, we have 3 sets of application keys, a blue one, an orange one, and a green one. And these keys can be used after a certain period of time. So only one set of keys is used at a time, but it's possible to switch to the next set of keys very conveniently. So how this feature works is at the point of application creation, actually also all the application keys are written inside the application, so they are personalized. And then after a certain period of time, you can switch to the next key set. So you can basically exchange all your application keys with one simple command, which is the roll key set command. The roll key set command is very fast and convenient, and you don't need to expose any application key values on the reader terminal in the field, but you are just exchanging all key values in one go. This feature makes it possible to increase the overall system security. So you can introduce a key lifetime. Let's say every 3 years, you want to exchange all your application keys to the next key set to increase the overall security. Or you can say you want to switch to a different key type, for example, from 2-key triple DES to AES. In this case, you would use different key types in the key sets and increase the power of the key type also over the time. All right, looking at the next slide. On this slide, what we see here is a feature that's called proximity check to detect if the card is really in close proximity of the reader. The proximity check can be helpful in any kind of infrastructure, being public transport or access management. It's simply detecting if the card is really physically close to the reader or if it's potentially far away and a relay attack is ongoing. So on the right-hand side in the image, you see the scenario of a relay attack, where basically 2 evil persons with some malicious devices would be interfering and would forward, so relay, the complete communication between the reader and the card. And by doing this, it would be possible to enter infrastructure without the card being physically present on the reader. Now, to circumvent such attacks from happening, the proximity check feature can be enabled and used on the DESFire EV3 card to check if the card is really in some centimeter close distance to the reader. And this check is done by a round trip timing measurement and some security checksums. This feature is also especially nice, for example, in secure car access use cases, where MIFARE DESFire EV3 can be used to open a car and get access to the car in form of a secondary key fob. Okay, let's look at the next feature that we want to highlight, which is the Secure Dynamic Messaging feature, also called SUN feature, which allows you to add security to NDEF messages and to make NDEF reading secure. So MIFARE DESFire EV3 can be formatted according to NFC Forum tag type 4. That means well-formatted NDEF messages can be stored on the card. When the card then is tapped by the end user to the mobile device, to a standard NDEF reader, which could be an Android device or an iOS device, you have a form of automated action that's triggered by the NDEF message. For example, a URL is opening, or a business card is opening, or you open an app on the phone. So there are different kind of NDEF messages which are standardized and can be configured on the card. Now what the Secure Dynamic Messaging is doing, it adds security to the NDEF reading in form of attaching encrypted data to the NDEF message. So when the phone is reading out the NDEF message and forwarding to the specified URL, also some encrypted data is transferred to the backend. And this encrypted data that's attached to the URL can be evaluated by the backend and checked if this message is unique, if it's authentic, and if it was encrypted in the right way. The nice thing about this feature is also that it works with standard NDEF readers, so no specific phone application or reader application is required. And it's also completely compatible to the SDM feature that's known already from NTEC 4.2.4. Okay, moving to the next slide. And what we see here is the complete offering of the MIFARE DESFire. So as we already briefly heard, MIFARE DESFire is available in many different form factors and in many different ways. So not only as standalone IC, but also as secure implementation on other secure microcontroller platforms or in form of Jacob AdPlets to be able to run on Java cards. Another form of availability is the availability of MIFARE DESFire in form of virtual cards of digitized credentials in form of MIFARE to Go. And complementing the service is the application cloud service that allows you to add applications to the same physical card via our NXP managed cloud backend. So now taking a bit of deeper look into the MIFARE to Go cloud service. MIFARE to Go is a complete end-to-end solution that's completely operated and implemented by NXP, running 24/7. So MIFARE to Go is a secure platform that's able to digitize your MIFARE DESFire card into the virtual world and able to manage virtual cards and its complete life cycle. MIFARE to Go is the central point that's connecting the cloud backend on the one hand side to the service provider backend, for example, the public transit agency's backend or an access management backend, to get the details of the card to be digitized. And on the other hand side, MIFARE to Go is connecting to the OEM, being the original equipment manufacturer, for example, the phone manufacturer or the manufacturer of wristbands, to be able to push these digital credentials to the end user's devices. So the nice benefit of MIFARE to Go is that these digitized MIFARE DESFire cards can be digitized either in form of HCE, host card emulation, to Android devices, giving us access to a broad user base of more than 2 billion Android devices all over the world, or the credentials or the cards can be digitized also on secure elements, meaning on devices being wearables or wristbands. MIFARE to go is also very convenient and efficient, offering a nice user benefit, being able to offer real-time feedback and fast and easy mobile ticket validation also on the reader. The big benefit also for infrastructure operators is that MIFARE to go was designed to fit to existing systems, meaning the infrastructure ownership stays completely at the service provider, and the MIFARE to go digitized credentials are also designed in a way to be behaving as the physical card would behave, so that no infrastructure changes would be required. Okay, let's please go to the next slide. So complementing not only the form factor of MIFARE DESFire EV3 in many different ways, of course, we also offer a lot of building blocks to get you kick-started with your MIFARE DESFire overall system solution. So if you want to test the MIFARE DESFire EV3 and you want to play with your commands and transactions, we are offering several support tools, for example, RFID Discover and the card test framework, which can be run on the Windows PC, or we are offering several Android and iOS apps like TagInfo and TagWriter to get familiar how the MIFARE DESFire EV3 card is behaving. If you want to implement your own Android app, that's also possible, as NXP is offering an Android SDK, which is called TapLinks. For get you also going with your reader implementation, we are offering a big family of reader ICs. Here we are mentioning two of them, especially the CLRC663 Plus and the PN7462, but obviously we also have a lot of more in our portfolio. For getting the reader implementation really fast and smooth, we are also offering here some reader libraries. And what we want to mention here are two versions of the reader library, namely the NFC embedded version, which is intended to be run on your reader, on your NFC contactless reader, or a Windows-based version that you can use to develop any kind of Windows-based applications attaching a PCSC reader to your PC. And last but not least, I also want to mention the importance of a secure key storage on the reader side. So here we are offering two devices, or we want to highlight two devices, namely the MIFARE SAM EV3, which is a secure access module that can be used on the reader side to securely store your MIFARE DESFire application keys and to perform also the transaction-based secure messaging for you. Additionally, I also want to mention the edgelog SAO50, which is also a secure element that can be used for secure key storage on the reader side. All right, and if you're now interested into MIFARE DESFire EV3 and you want to kickstart your secure contactless system solution, one thing that I want to emphasize is keep in mind that the system overall is only secure, only as strong as its weakest link. Meaning MIFARE DESFire EV3 is a really powerful device offering high security and state-of-the-art crypto mechanisms. So please keep in mind that also on the reader side, you should be considering appropriate security measures. So here NXP is also providing all the relevant building blocks that you might require to start your reader implementation, starting from microcontrollers, reader ICs, and obviously the matching secure access module. And with this, I want to hand over again for the final slides to my colleague Chuming, who will guide you through the product support and also the ordering information.
Thank you, Sandra, for sharing with us all these new highlights of the product features. Here I want to show you the product delivery types for MIFARE DESFire EV3 for your product inquiry, which you may have after this webinar. So we offer the MIFARE DESFire EV3 in two capacitance, 17 picofarad and 70 picofarad, in all three memory, 2K, 4K, and 8K. And we are offering them in wafer delivery, also in contactless module, MOA 8 and MOA 4. So the product availability is, as of now, the product is fully released. You may be able to place order through your sales contact locally. The sampling of both the modules and also the cards are also available from NXP. You may contact your sales representative to order these samples. The product support package, as also highlighted by Sandra previously, is already available on our website and with our sales contact. So you can find the data sheet, the application notes, the software tools, and the sample codes in our doc store. So for you to get more details on the support package and the documentation, you can visit our website, nxp.com, or if you already have an account in doc store, do request for the DESFire EV3 content class. And you can also find out a lot more information on our public website, mifare.net. So other than the coming to NXP, you may also contact our MIFARE premium partners who will be able to serve you with their samples card and various support from their support team all around the world. So our premium partners are Evernight, HID Global, Linksens, and Identiv. Their contact informations are here for your reference.